SCP-3079 300 Tricks Stage Magic Made Easy. Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. All copies of SCP-3079 are to be kept in a secure locker on site. Access to these copies is limited to personnel with Level 4 clearance or higher. A Foundation-operated bot, IO Newt, is to monitor internet traffic for any indication that an SCP-3079-A instance has been discovered, particularly among online communities centered around stage magic. Should non-Foundation personnel become aware of an SCP-3079-A instance, they are to be captured and amnesticized immediately. Description: SCP-3079 300 Tricks Stage Magic Made Easy is a 435-page hardback book written and self-published by Tobin Hollis, a highly successful stage magician active throughout North America during the 40s and 50s. It contains detailed instructions for performing numerous stage tricks. The majority of these tricks involve traditional techniques such as sleight of hand, misdirection, and optical illusions. Instances of SCP-3079-A are instructions contained within SCP-3079 which describe methods to achieve anomalous results. These instructions are scattered throughout SCP-3079. The text itself make no distinction between anomalous and non-anomalous entries. There are 47 anomalous entries in total. The anomalous nature of these entries were noticed immediately prior to its publication. All copies of SCP-3079 were taken into Foundation property. All knowledge of its existence was successfully suppressed. SCP-3079's author was taken into Foundation custody, where he remained until his death, several weeks later. Addendum 3079.1 Notable Entries. Trick number 3, the Impossible Fold. Effect: the magician writes his name on a sheet of paper. He then asks the viewer to write her name on the opposite side of this paper. He proceeds to fold the paper several times over, before finally unfolding it to reveal that her name is now on both sides of the paper. Note: a diagram is provided demonstrating the complex series of folds required in order to cause this effect. While objects folded in this way undergo an anomalous process, the folds are not anomalous in of themselves. Trick number 37, the Mending Knot. Effect: the magician produces a length of rope and a pair of cutting shears. He invites the viewer to step forward and examine both objects closely. Once she is satisfied as to their ordinary nature, the magician asks her to use the shears to cleanly cut the rope in two. Then the magician binds both lengths together in a knot. He asks her to examine the knot, then asks her to cut the center of the knot with the shears. Upon making this final cut, the knot instantly unravels, revealing that the two lengths are now restored to one. Note: the method involves an anomalous type of knot able to fuse cleaved lengths of rope back together. Trick 78, the Lost and Found. Effect: the magician produces a deck of cards. The viewer is invited to examine it at her leisure, and then shuffle it for as long as she pleases. The magician hands her his hat and tells her to drop any card she wishes into it. He then instructs her to put the hat on her head. Once finished, the magician takes the cards, shuffles them, and cuts the deck. He asks the viewer to take a card from the top of the deck and examine it. It is the very same card she took. Furthermore, when she lifts the hat from her head, the card is gone, and in its place is someone she thought she lost so long ago. Note: the method involves a particular ordering of the deck prior to the trick, a complex shuffling technique, and a hat of sufficient size. The object that appears underneath the hat is the domestic, juvenile, white, male rabbit. Every instance has proven to be both genetically and physiologically identical. Trick 143, Lost Time. The magician produces a folded silk handkerchief, which he proceeds to drape and unfold across his clenched hand. When he pulls the handkerchief back, his hand is full of beautiful hyacinths, one for each birthday that he has missed. Note: a diagram describes the necessary folds that must be performed on the handkerchief to produce this result. Notably, the number of hyacinths produced by this effect has increased by 1 year since its discovery. 215. The magic number. Effect: the viewer is invited to think of a number between 1 and 9. The magician tells her to double this number, and then add 9. Whatever number she should have should now be between 11 and 27. Next, the magician tells her to take this new number and add its 2 digits together. So, if it's 13, the number is 4. If it is 15, the number is 6, and so on. The magician then reveals he knows what number she now has. 11! She's probably grown up so much since then. Note: the method involves a precise set of phrases that the participant must both hear and understand. Testing has shown that when performed correctly, the participant will always end up with 11, despite the fact that this result is mathematically impossible. Trick 301. His final trick. Effect: the magician burns what little money he has left to publish a book before it's too late. In it, he tells her all of his tricks. He tells her how sorry he is that he left. He begs her to forgive him. He begs her to let him see her one last time. And then, like magic, she reappears. Note: no method for accomplishing this trick is provided. The following is a page from a publication entitled To the Circus Born, Herman Fuller's Menagerie of Freaks. The identities of neither publisher nor author have been established, and scattered pages have been found inserted into circus-themed books in libraries across the world. The person or persons behind this dissemination are unknown. Herman Fuller's Circus of the Disquieting. Send in the clowns. Herman Fuller's clown troupe are like none the world has ever seen. They will delight and astound you with their unearthly talents, all led by the beautiful, the magical, the sensational Icky. One day only, 7 p.m. this Sunday at the Western Fairgrounds. One show, one chance. Come one, come all. Icky the Magical Clown. It all started when I found a book on stage magic by a guy named Tobin Hollis. It had about 300 tricks in it, and a few dozen of them were legitimately supernatural. I did a handful of them for our school talent show, and I won first place. Easily. And that's where I learned that I loved performing. Fortunately for me, no one I ever performed for could tell the difference between real magic and expertly executed stage magic. But even in my little town, we heard rumors about a secret organization that suppressed knowledge of the supernatural, hunting down and locking up anyone or anything that wasn't normal. As if being queer wasn't bad enough, now I have to worry about getting magic bashed. Yeah, I could just not use magic the same way I could just not love other women, but I decided at a young age that I wasn't going to let fear stop me from being who I am. I cut a break when Herman Fuller's Circus of the Disquieting rolled into town. I could tell it was real magic, and that the people were magic. It was a community where magic wasn't feared, but celebrated, where magic people accepted one another and protected one another. I knew I was home. After asking around a bit, I ended up in the Ringmaster's tent. I did an audition for Fuller with both real and stage magic, and I was very impressed that he could tell the difference. A hot teenage magician who already had an act was an easy sell, and I got my own stall in the Hall of Humans Extraordinaire. Herman didn't have much tolerance for insubordination, but so long as you stayed on his good side, life at the circus was pretty decent. Manny always made sure we were looked after. Unlike Herman, he knew what it was like to be an outcast, to have people hate, slander, disown, beat, exploit, and attack you for no other reason than being different. We really bonded over that and our shared sense of ostracism, the rejection of our own families, and finding solace in the company of fellow freaks. The hall was a good gig, but I dreamed of performing in the big top. So Manny took me to the library so I could get some more magic tomes to up my act. But that wasn't enough. That's when I started hanging out with the clowns. Now, most people think clowns are creepy, if not plain horrifying upon seeing them up close, but I was awestruck by their supernatural and theatrical talents. To my delight and surprise, some of them thought I showed potential. Eugene and Pius started tutoring me in magic and clowning, and I eventually landed a supporting role in their big top act. That went on for a while, but eventually my progress plateaued. I thought for sure they were going to drop me from the act, but instead they did something that would change my life forever. They offered to turn me into a clown. A real clown. Capital C. I had never seriously considered the idea of becoming anything other than human before, mainly because I didn't know that was possible. But as Tinkles went over the procedure with me, I found it more and more appealing. It wasn't just the magic that appealed to me, but the fact that the clowns always seemed so happy. I tried my best to be happy as a human, but I always felt so bad about running away from my parents. I ran because I thought if they had ever found out that I liked girls, I would have been disowned or commuted to a nut house. But I never gave them a chance. Maybe I shouldn't have assumed the worst. They did love me, and lots of conservative parents became more tolerant after finding out their kid was gay. Maybe they would have too. I'll never know. All I know is I broke their hearts. I wanted to escape from that, and I wanted to be the best magician I could be. So I became a clown. That caused a bit of a rift between me and Manny. We never really talked about it, but I think he thinks I lost something valuable by losing my heartache. He and I have slowly reconnected over the years, but he still calls me Veronica. I'm not embarrassed to have started off as Veronica, but I couldn't be any happier to be Icky. Thank you for listening, and have a good rest of your evening. Good night.